You might be wondering why I'm laying on the ground, and it's to prove a point that not even native speakers know how to properly speak English.
In fact, I just made a mistake. Did you catch it?
You might be wondering why I'm laying on the ground.
The first mistake native speakers make is using lay instead of lie. While it's perfectly fine for me to lay my baby down, it's not okay for me to lay down. This is because lay is a transitive verb, meaning it takes an object, and it only works as a transitive verb, so it must have an object. I need to lay something down, whether it be laying down knowledge like I'm doing right now, or laying down a blanket. Lie, on the other hand, is an intransitive verb, and only an intransitive verb, meaning that it cannot take an object. So we don't lay down, we lie down. But a lot of native speakers don't know this.
Mama went to the hotel to lay down.
The gazelle lay down next to Rama.
You have to at least lay down.
Lay down, relax, and breathe deeply.
Here's the confusing part though. There is a proper way for me to say I lay down, or he lay down, or it lay down. And one of the examples I just showed you actually used this properly. Do you know which one it was?
The gazelle lay down next to Rama.
In this clip, the girl is telling a story, meaning she's speaking in the past tense. And the past tense of lie is lay. So when she says the gazelle lay down, she's actually using lie in the past tense correctly.
So even though I lie on the ground before you, right now, at the beginning of the video, I lay on the ground.
Each of the mistakes in this video are common, and I actually just made another one. I should have said, each of the mistakes in this video is common. I need to match the proper verb form is with my singular subject, each. This sort of subject-verb agreement mistake is one that we make especially with group nouns.
But the group are gonna work through this.
So the team are about to hit this train. When they do, there're gonna be a lot more casualties.
Or when the verb is far away from its original subject. Group nouns are nouns like family or team or group. Even though the group contains multiple members, the group itself is only one group and is therefore singular. This can be even more difficult when the verb is far from its original subject. Look at this example. The group of students, including 7th and 8th graders, all from different schools, not performing well. Would I use is or are here? If I think my subject is schools or 8th graders or even students, I should go with are, but my main subject is actually group, so I would go with is. Another common mistake is using you and I as the object of a sentence rather than you and me or me and you. This is actually a mistake people tend to make when they're trying to not make a mistake. It's common for us to use you and me or me and you as the subject of a sentence. So in order to avoid this, people overcorrect and avoid the phrase you and me or me and you altogether. You can see this overcorrection being used all over the place.
Frankie, there's tension between you and I for the first time in our lives.
There are these two very lovely young pussies who would like to have a chat with you and I.
It's time for you and I to bond.
Now I guess I could have showed you examples from real life instead of movies. Maybe I should have showed you politicians making these mistakes. And I would have showed you, but I'm too excited about the next two mistakes, which I just made a moment ago. The next mistake is writing the word of instead of have in phrases like could have, would have, or should have. Now, when I made this mistake a moment ago, it was a writing error in the subtitles. We do actually pronounce these phrases could have, would have, should have.
And I never would have realized I was missing a real connection in my life. Okay, I should have told you about Kimber.
Or sometimes even coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I could have given up, right?
I woulda, shoulda, coulda.
That's just connected speech, which is the way that native speakers actually talk. The error that I made was using the word in writing. Did you notice the other mistake I made? I used the past tense showed instead of the past participle shown. Using the past tense form of a verb rather than the past participle is another really common mistake that we make as native speakers. And there's a good reason for this. A lot of past participle verbs are the same as the past tense. Verbs like walk, dance, or jump all take ed to form the past tense jumped, walked, danced, and the past participle jumped, walked, danced. I just jumped over the bottle, so I have jumped over it twice. But for the irregular verb eat, I would say I ate pizza yesterday, but I would say I have eaten pizza many times in my life. And while most native speakers do know the past participle eaten, there are other past participle verbs that for whatever reason we don't tend to know. One of which is the past participle of the word drink.
I've drank my whole life away.
There are times when I have drank too much, but...
I've drunk 3 pints of milk a day for as long as I can remember.
All right, so we've gone over half the mistakes, but we still have farther to go, right? Wrong. We have further to go. A lot of native speakers use these two words interchangeably, but they do not mean the same thing. Technically, we're supposed to use farther for actual distances, and we're supposed to use further for hypothetical distances or abstract distances. Over here, I'm closer to the door, but if I move over here, I am farther from the door than I was just a moment ago. If you want to take your English further, you should watch all of my videos, and you should subscribe to my channel. It's getting cold out here, so hopefully I don't have to explain that any further. Our next mistake is similar to the you and I mistake because native speakers will make it when they're trying to sound fancy. Check out these examples and see if you can spot what I'm talking about.
Between Belmonte and myself, whom would you choose?
I'm very pleased to accept this on behalf of Dithpram and myself.
Oh, Grant and myself are riding over Loch Nagar on the worst imaginable night.
Those numbers have already been confirmed by 2 engineers in this department and myself.
Did you notice it? In each of these examples, a native speaker is using myself as an object or as a subject. But myself should never be used as a subject, and it should only be used as an object reflexively, meaning that the subject and the object are the same person, like I poke myself or I slap myself. The only other use for myself is for emphasis, to emphasize that you did something without the help of anyone else.
I'll see to it myself immediately.
I dyed it myself.
Now, obviously, some native speakers make less mistakes than others, but for me, in this video, I'm making a lot more than I usually do. I should have said that some native speakers make fewer mistakes than others do. There is a distinct difference between less and fewer. We're supposed to use less for uncountable nouns. Nouns like water or air or love. Words that don't normally become plural. We can't count them. If I locked myself in the closet, I would have a hard time breathing because there would be less and less air over time. And we're supposed to use fewer for things that we can count. Things like apples or hands or cats. But is that what we actually do?
The more you grow up, the less things you get to do that you wanna.
Naturally, less people are as excited about this as one could imagine.
I've had going more north where there's less people.
As you can see, we don't always follow this rule. This is because a lot of native speakers think that less and fewer mean the same thing. But the next rule involves words that sound the same. I'm talking about homophones, words like it's and its, there and there, effect and effect, then and then. Now, obviously, because they sound the same, we don't misuse them in speech. Rather, we write them incorrectly with the wrong spelling on social media, in text messages, and yes, sometimes even in the titles of YouTube videos. Now, that's not to say that we don't mispronounce words. In fact, that's the final mistake on my list. This is just one example of a word that native speakers mispronounce all the time. Do you know how to say this word?
And we must always be on guard for the mischievous lip drift.
Look at me. You got that mischievous look in your eye, buddy. The Rodanians.
The lonesome cry of the mischievous coyote. Flathead.
Idle hands are mischievous hands, are they not?
Mischievous is one of many words that native speakers routinely mispronounce. The problem is native speakers will teach you these incorrect pronunciations. So you're going to want to watch this video so you can learn how to correctly pronounce 15 of these words.